Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to offer remarks on the Water Resources Development Act today. Specifically, I would like to address Amendment number 4996, which has now been modified and included in the Inhofe-Boxer manager's package. First, to Senators Inhofe and Boxer, thank you for your commitment to passing the WRDA bill every 2 years. I appreciate your efforts to work with every member in this chamber to make certain that that commitment is upheld. The bill reflects our duty and ability to ensure safe, reliable water infrastructure. In large part, it achieves this by granting greater flexibility to local stakeholders to manage their communities' diverse water needs. For example, in Nebraska, our 23 natural resource districts will be allowed to fund feasibility studies and receive reimbursement during project construction, instead of waiting until that project is completed. WRDA also includes real reform for state municipalities, like those in Omaha, struggling with unfunded combined sewer overflow mandates. Personally, I am relieved that WRDA 2016 eliminates the EPA's flawed median household income affordability measurement, which hurts fixed and low-income families. Regarding Amendment number 4996, I want to thank the Chair and the Ranking Member of the EPW Committee and their staff for working with me in a bipartisan manner to ensure America's farmers and ranchers have greater certainty for their on-farm fuel and animal feed storage. Mr. President, this amendment provides a limited exemption to farmers from the EPA's Spill Prevention, Containment, and Control, or the SPCC rule. 2 years ago, I worked with Senator Boxer, who was then chairman of the committee, in a good faith effort to address concerns raised by my constituents about this rule. And I am really glad for the opportunity to do so again. My modified amendment would wholly exempt animal feed storage tanks from the SPCC rule, both in terms of aggregate storage and single tank storage. Further, this amendment includes additional language that will exempt up to 2,000 gallons of capacity on remote or separate parcels of land, as long as these tanks are not larger than 1,000 gallons each. Ultimately, this will allow ag producers greater flexibility to access the necessary fuel needed to power machinery, equipment, and also irrigation pumps. Some may think that these are just technical tweaks, but let me assure you, they are critically important to farmers and ranchers across our country. Most agricultural producers live miles away from the nearest refueling station, and producers therefore rely upon on-farm fuel storage to provide the supply that they need at times when they need it. This amendment will ensure producers can maintain that on-farm fuel storage. It would bring some reasonable, measured exemptions to the SPCC rule for small and medium-sized farms and for livestock producers. This compromise comes at a critical hour for our ag producers. They are struggling through one of the toughest farm economies since the 1980s. Markets are weak, margins are tight. This compromise offers much-needed regulatory relief. For many, it's a lifeline. It lifts an unnecessary burden. So I urge my colleagues to support these common-sense exemptions that will limit harmful federal regulations on the men and women who feed a very hungry world. Mr. President, I'd like to comment briefly on those harmful regulations. As I mentioned, the Senate passed a provision in the 2014 WRDA bill requiring the EPA to do some research before determining what is and what is not an appropriate, safe fuel storage level for the average American farmer? Well, it's my view, and it's shared by many producers across the country, that if there's no risk, then there's no reason to regulate. Don't fix problems that don't exist. The EPA released results of this study last year, and it is difficult for me to call it a study. The word study carries with it the implication of careful scrutiny. The EPA's report was, in reality, a collection of assumptions lacking in scientific evidence. It supported a recommendation that moved the goalpost on the exemption levels below the minimum that was previously agreed to by this chamber and signed into law. The EPA report failed to show that on-farm fuel storage poses a significant risk to water quality. It cited 7 examples of significant fuel spills, and not one of them occurred on a farm or a ranch. Even more misleading, one referenced a spill of 3,000 gallons of jet fuel. Well, Mr. President, I know in your state of South Dakota and in my state of Nebraska, it would be very hard to find a farmer who employs the use of a jet engine when they are harvesting a cornfield. To place these costly fees and heavy regulations on farmers and ranchers at so difficult a time is really a dangerous thing, and it's a serious thing. To do so based on a false report with misleading information, that's irresponsible. I know the impact of federal policies from firsthand experience. Farmers and ranchers understand their success is the direct result of careful stewardship of our natural resources. We depend on a healthy environment for our very livelihoods. We know the value of clean water. You can't raise cattle or corn without it. No one works harder to protect the quality of our streams and our aquifers. When it comes to preventing spills from on-farm fuel storage, producers already have every incentive in the world. We live on this land, and our families drink the water. So again, I would like to thank Chairman Inhofe and Ranking Member Boxer for their willingness to come together, reach a compromise, and safeguard the livelihoods of our farmers and ranchers. The Senate's approval of WRDA will be a relief for farmers throughout Nebraska and all across America who should not face these unnecessary regulations. The bipartisan provision regarding on-farm fuel storage completely exempts animal feed ingredients, and it does provide greater flexibility to producers to access the fuel where they need it. And that's reflective of the world realities that we face in production agriculture. I appreciate my colleagues' support and cooperation on this issue. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.